Action. I appreciate your coming tonight. I wanted to say a word about the gruesome murder of Jamal Khashoggi. This incident has riveted Washington and many in the entire world. We had a situation where 15 Saudi intelligence officers flew from Riyadh to Istanbul, went into the consulate, apparently murdered that dissident journalist, and returned to Riyadh the same night. And after more than 2 weeks, yesterday, the Saudis came out with a cover story that this was not an approved operation, that even though they sent a forensic doctor to lead the group, that it was an accident, that he had become violent in confronting a group of 15 intelligence officers, and had died in the struggle. But most observers think that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman actually ordered the crime. And Mass Peace Action's point is that while this is terrible, the policies of Saudi Arabia under Mohammed bin Salman are much worse than murdering one journalist. The brutal war in Yemen is now more than 3.5 years old. Thousands of people have been killed by the bombing campaign. There are actually more than 1 million cases of cholera. Do you know what cholera is? Do you know how you prevent cholera? You prevent cholera with clean water. So that says that there are more than 1 million people in Yemen that have drunk dirty water for so long that they've contracted cholera. It's a bacterial infection. And there's a threat of famine that would affect the whole country. They're still fighting, the Saudi-UAE alliance is still fighting in the port of Hodeidah. They won't let supplies in. And just 1 week ago today, two more civilian buses were bombed by airstrikes near Hodeidah, civilians trying to leave the fighting. 17 people were killed, 20 wounded this time. Mohammed bin Salman was here in Cambridge in March. We organized a protest at MIT. He also spoke at Harvard under security. He didn't give any public talks, right? Only to the private invited guests. We also protested him at the Four Seasons Hotel where he was staying. And last Tuesday, 60 of us protested at Raytheon BBN Technologies in North Cambridge, demanding that they stop selling bombs that Saudi is using to destroy Yemen. And President Trump says that he won't cut off arms sales to Saudi because it supports U.S. jobs. So this is the situation we have. We have a U.S., Saudi, Israel alliance to confront Iran, and the danger of war against Iran is very serious. And we're doing everything we can, and we urge you to do everything you can to speak out about this. The situation with nuclear disarmament worldwide is equally perilous, with a new arms race underway between the U.S., Russia, and China. And just yesterday we got word that the United States is planning to withdraw from the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty. That was one of the treaties towards the end of the Cold War that was signed. The U.S. feels the need to have new nuclear forces to confront China. So that's the rationale they're given to withdraw from the INF Treaty. Mass Peace Action has had a number of activities going on this weekend. We're trying to raise awareness any way we can. We were down on the Boston Common this morning forming a human peace sign. Who was here? Who was with the Mass Peace Action group this morning forming the human peace sign? There were, I think, 1,300 people there. They failed to make the world's largest ever human peace sign, but they did have 1,300 people to do it. We have 2 students from Boston Latin School at a student peace conference in New York this weekend, organized by Peace Action New York State. And we have a speaker, Jeff Klein, who spoke on the Cape this afternoon at an event called Rachel's Children, about the situation of Palestinian children when they are arrested by Israeli forces. So the situation of the progressive peace and justice movements is indeed extremely difficult. We have attacks against labor and working people, tax cuts for the rich, sharply increased military spending, escalated wars and international crises, anti-immigrant and xenophobic rhetoric and policies, escalated racism, sexism, and assaults on LGBTQ people. Those are among the urgent challenges we face. And as wildfires spread and glaciers melt, the Trump administration is doubling down on policies that guarantee catastrophic climate change. The far right controls the national government, both houses of Congress, the Supreme Court, and most state governments. They're on the offensive on every front. While the Democrats may regain control of the House next month, and possibly even the Senate, the reactionary forces that have been unleashed by the Trump administration and organized by Trump are determined to continue their offensive in years to come. And they're going to pose serious dangers to living standards and social justice, as well as democracy, civil liberties, and peace. A new progressive movement, fortunately, has been rising to resist this right-wing offensive, exemplified by Black Lives Matter, the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign, the wave of progressive candidates, particularly women candidates, running for office this year, the Poor People's Campaign, the women's marches, the Fight for 15, March for Our Lives, the responses to Charlottesville and to the separation of migrant families, and the women's resistance to the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. But the progressive resistance still tends to avoid confronting U.S. militarism too many times, particularly the dangers of nuclear war and of war with Iran, Korea, and Russia. Even if the progressive movement were to emerge victorious in the United States, if it let the foreign policy establishment exercise an imperial policy throughout the world, it's like having your arm behind your back. Your adversary is looking global, but our social justice movement is looking only within the country. So what mass peace action is trying to do is bring a peace perspective to this progressive agenda, to flesh it out. We're going to sponsor a conference after the midterm elections to look at all these issues, together with American Friends Service Committee, Black Lives Matter Boston, the Campaign for Peace, Disarmament, and Common Security, Progressive Democrats of America, Our Revolution Massachusetts, and Progressive Massachusetts. We will take stock of the political landscape after the midterm elections, chart the path towards a unified progressive movement over the coming years, and educate and motivate our supporters towards more effective and more unified efforts. The conference will be on Saturday, November 17th at Simmons University. Many of you will be able to join us there. And with that, I'd like to call on Victor Rosenbaum to introduce the music. Oh, Victor isn't going to speak. All right. I'd like to call on all the musicians to come up and play the music.